Hi, Ben. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And just thank you for this opportunity. We're all very excited about it. We wondered if maybe the best thing to do is start off is to ask you to give us a little bit of a background on the legend that is Kyffin Williams, just to sort of set the scene. Really.
So Kyffin Williams was born in Anglesey in 1918. He was a sort of gentry, really, a fairly well-heeled Welshman. He was destined really for a life in the army. But during his school years, he had contracted polio, which caused later in his life epilepsy, and this was this occurred suddenly and in an incident just after he had joined the Welsh Fusiliers and in his training period, so just before the Second World War. And it was his army doctor who actually said, perhaps you should be an artist, that you are, and I'm only quoting, of course, that you are abnormal. And now Kyffin regards this conversation and he regarded his epilepsy as his greatest fortune, because it's made him about to turn, and he left the army and he pursued a career in art.
So I'm curious about the language that was used when he was diagnosed with his epilepsy. I mean, he was told he was abnormal. He was told that he had to go off and find another career. He was told to do light and undemanding work. I'm also aware that he didn't marry because of the stigma due to epilepsy. And I just wonder how tonally, whether that sort of came across in his work, quite dark, quite muted colours. Do you, am I reading too much into it? Do you think that?
Well, it's difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the colours are a true reflection of what you see in Wales and the landscape. There are certain paintings which I can think of where they are supposed to resemble his epilepsy and to be a reflection of how he felt about the illness. Certainly epilepsy shaped his career. I mean, without epilepsy, we wouldn't have had such a great, fantastic and expansive body of work.
The thing I love about Willie is when you first look at him, he's just a boy. But obviously, what Kyffin saw in him was there's so much more. The more you look into his face, there's so much character in his expression and a light in his eyes. And I think there's just something about that. This is an epilepsy support group, but he saw beyond the epilepsy and saw into the character of the person. And I really love that about that image.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's what Kyffin intended to paint when it came to portrait, is to really pull out the character of the sitter. It was never about creating a photographic resemblance of the person, but really pulling out the nature of the person and the person being part of the landscape, and that's what he was trying to extract.
As you know, our huge campaign here at Epilepsy Research UK is A Life Interrupted, and it's been really hard for us to have celebrities talk about how their life is interrupted, because again, this, even all these years on, there's stigma about epilepsy. If you're an actor and you admit you have epilepsy, then they won't insure you on set. People are nervous. Even in our own sort of Shape Epilepsy Research network of people supporting us to develop our work, there's people who won't be identified amongst the peer groups and externally because they're worried about their careers. It's still so, the stigma is still so strong. So to have this story of Kyffin, whose life was interrupted by epilepsy, literally overnight, he was gone from the army and he had to find a new life, and a life interrupted. It's just like, it's so inspiring, and I think that not everybody will turn out to be the legend that Kyffin Williams was, but I think it's really inspirational for people to see it's not the end of the road. And I think an epilepsy diagnosis can feel quite dark for people, and they can feel quite isolated and alone. And I think just to look at that picture, just to see his body of work and his enormous success is it's just so inspiring. It really is.
I agree with you. Very, very inspiring. He is regarded as Wales's best loved artist, Wales's most favourite painter, and the story of Welsh art in the last 200 years. He's right at the top of that story, and that's despite everything. You know, the odds were against him, but if you follow your passion, then there's no stopping you.
And it's also so, I mean, his work's so easily identifiable, isn't it? You know it's one of his paintings.
You do, because so Kyffin generally, in his oil paintings, he used a palette knife rather than a brush. So his work is very bold, efficient, and with big strikes of this palette knife to create a real crisp and 3D effect of his paintings, and that works so very well in landscape, but unusually and perhaps surprisingly, it works exceptionally well in portraits as well.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled that you've provided us with this gift, both in terms of, you know, financial support, but just really in highlighting, you know, the Life Interrupted campaign for us, and giving people hope. And so just thank you very much. We really, really value and appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And good luck with the auction.
Thank you very much.